Good morning, everyone. I can see everyone slowly connecting onto the audio. So hello. Happy election day. What a fun day. I'm almost happy that the session isn't happening in the evening, because if it was happening in the afternoon or evening, I feel like we would have very divided attention. But in the morning, we're not going to be missing anything. Nothing interesting is happening. We can all be looking at the maps, and in the next 3 hours, nothing is, or 2.5 hours, nothing's going to happen. So I'm glad we can be here together to, capture each other's time for this period. Today we have another great session. We will begin with a talk by one of our facilitators. So some of you who have seen by Kelsey Rydell. Then we'll head into our groups and then we'll wrap up. Today, we are talking about search engine optimization. And we're delighted to have Kelsey, who proposed this talk in this session, who has expertise in this area. And so for those of you who are in Kelsey's group, she's probably done a good introduction already. But for those of you who are not in her group, I'll give you just a brief bio of her before I hand it over to Kelsey. So Kelsey is a marketing consultant, a business coach, and a speaker with a wide-ranging focus on content marketing, SEO, and experiential campaigns. She has over 10 years in marketing for top Canadian health brands. And then she left the corporate world to help small businesses implement key marketing strategies to grow and attract clients, and really just bring the joy back to lead generation. She has courses and coaching and a podcast, which is Visionary Life. She inspires entrepreneurs to connect creatively with customers and challenge the status quo. Today, we are specifically digging into the topics of SEO, and we have an action-packed, fun agenda with her. So Kelsey, I will hand it over to you. You should be able to take the reins from me.
Amazing. Okay, I am going to screen share. Welcome, everybody. So excited to chat with you today and to dig into the wonderful world of search engine optimization. So let me get some slides up and we will kick right in. If you want to grab a notebook, a pen, or just get your Google documents up. If you guys can give me a thumbs up when you see my slides full size. Yeah? No? I see both. People are like, yes. People are saying no.
We do see your screen, but it's not full size.
All right, let's try that again. Thank you. You'd think after 10 years on Zoom, I'd be able to get this right the first time. So entire screen, desktop 2. Let's see if that might be the solution.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Wonderful. All right. So let's kick right in. I'm just going to get my screen up, and I will also have the comments up in the chat. So feel free to engage. Let's make this super interactive. I know SEO is not necessarily what everybody wakes up and wants to chat about, but I do think that this is going to be a critical piece of each of your growth marketing strategies and your journeys. So let's kick right in. All right, so I want to give some context. I know you guys have already kind of heard my bio, but just as a little reintroduction, then I'll share a little bit about why these 3 pieces about me are very important. So yes, I'm a marketing consultant, but there's a few other facets to who I am. I'm also a mama of a very busy 10-month-old. I am a mountain bike competitor, so I love racing in the summer, and I'm also a sourdough baker. So why do these things tie into SEO? All of them require me to constantly be assessing things like technical elements. Like every time I go out for a training ride, I am encountering new route systems and new trails, and the technical elements of it, I constantly have to be looking one step ahead and problem solving based on the trail system that I'm riding. With sourdough baking, your starter goes in and out of health, I'll say. So sometimes I wake up and I bake my loaves, I bake my focaccia, and it works out perfectly. And it's very light and fluffy. And other times it's something has changed, right? Maybe I didn't feed my starter properly. Maybe I over fermented my loaf. And all of a sudden my brain goes, okay, what was something that I did differently? And how can I change that for next time? I'm also chasing a 10-month-old around all day, every day when I'm not working. And I see him, he's always looking at like, what is the most mischievous thing that I can do? And so I'm always thinking one step ahead for him, like, okay, we have a hot fireplace over there and there's like the little poker stick. I need to remove these things and get them out of the way. So constantly knowing that as his growth progresses and develops, I also need to be thinking ahead. The reason why I share this is because it's very similar with search engine optimization. One day you're on page 1 of Google, you feel like you've really figured out that search engine algorithm and you're like, yes, okay, we've got all our technical elements, our content team is killing it. We're on page 1 for all of the keywords and key phrases that we want to rank for. And you're like, celebrating your team wins at your Monday morning huddle. And it's like, yeah, we've done awesome. The leads are pouring in. Your growth marketing strategy is dialed. And then at your December meeting, you show up and you're like, oh no, for some reason we've dropped to page 2. The leads aren't coming in, but you can't get deflated in those moments because there's so much changing on the back end with search engines all the time. It doesn't mean you need to burn it all down and abandon this strategy. You just need to apply that mindset of, okay, something changed, whether it's a search engine algorithm or a Google update, or now with so many different AI systems that people are using ChatGPT more to find answers. But there's always a way to solve the problem and continuing to extract leads from SEO if that's a strategy you choose to go down. So always applying that critical mindset. Things change quite often. If you use a software like SEMrush or Ubersuggest or Ahrefs, you've probably seen your daily reports coming through and you're like, how am one day I'm the #1 ranking, the next day I'm not. But I'm here to reassure you that you can still reap so many benefits from SEO. And I'll explain more about what that is for those of you who are more junior to this topic, and to not be discouraged if it goes like this. It's like the roller coaster ride of entrepreneurship, or, in whatever role you have right now. There are good days, there are bad days. Doesn't mean that it all goes to hell if there's a bad day. And before we get into it, my favorite 5 words that I hear together on a daily basis are, I found you on Google. Whether that's someone saying it to me, whether that's my client saying, oh my gosh, Kels, for the first time ever, somebody said to me, I found your product on Google. I hired you because I found you on Google. It's incredible because we always hear like passive lead generation, passive marketing, and no marketing strategy is necessarily truly passive. We have to check in on our ads. We have to check in on our search engine optimization. But when my clients are waking up and they have 5 new qualified leads because somebody showed up to a search engine, typed in what they needed, they're like, laying in bed in the middle of the night being like, I really need a solution to this type of software. And then they come to your site, book a demo, and all of a sudden they've just invested $5,000 a year for your software. That's pretty cool, right? We love that. So we want more of that. All right, so here's our agenda for today. We are going to be moving so fast because I want to give you the most value and the least amount of time. An hour is just going to scratch the surface. And I would encourage you to take notes and circle back with me after if you have questions, because we're really just going to be breezing through. So we're going to go through some basics because everybody's on a different journey with SEO. We're going to do some live detective work just so you can see how this works in action. And then you can take this home and do some more digging on your own. I'm going to help you build out a sample strategy. So if you are your content team, you're going to put your content hat on for this and figure out what do you need to do on the back end of your website to optimize your SEO. Or maybe you have a team of people that you're like, hey, I'm going to give them this strategy, and you can pass it forward to them. Then we'll get into some of the techie stuff. Now, technical SEO is a very vast pillar of SEO. So if you feel like some of this stuff, you have a very complex back end, maybe you have a custom website, you can always refer out to your web developer or somebody who can dig into this, but I'm going to give you the basics of what you need to know. And then we're going to talk about how to collect data. We are in a growth marketing program after all, so we want to see some numbers, some quantitative data to see, is what I'm doing actually working? Because if not, why are you doing it, right? We can't do everything when it comes to marketing. You might already feel that way in terms of the amazing value that this whole program provides. It's like we got to do one thing at a time, make sure it's working, and then after 6 or so months, really ask yourself, is this adding value to the business? Is this producing the result that I'm searching for? And if not, maybe we just put it aside for a bit and focus on something that will work. But of course, you've probably heard with SEO, it can take time. So we also have to have patience, which is another skill that all of my other hobbies require as well, in addition to SEO. So let's start with some basics. So SEO, SEM. I'm going to be sharing a lot of acronyms today. These are actually 2 different topics. So I'm going to be chatting about SEO. You might be like, what? Well, how are these different? SEO is search engine optimization, and it's really about getting traffic from organic search. So you organically appearing on page 1 of a search engine. It's an unpaid listing. So yay, this cost you $0. I'm not asking you to dig into your bank account or your budget. But of course, we know that if it costs $0, it might take some time. SEM is search engine marketing. So this is getting traffic from paid search. Sorry, I'm just going to try and keep the comments up. And when somebody is paying to have a listing and they're using Google Ads to actually show up in search results, it'll actually appear right at the top. You've probably seen this many, many times as someone who uses search engines yourself. It'll appear as sponsored or ad, okay? Also called pay-per-click advertising. So today we're focusing on SEO. How can you do this organically? But the cool thing is, if you learn it organically, you can take all of this information and apply it to your first or next Google Ads campaign. So there's definitely a lot of crossover. Something you should know about me too is that I like to teach all of you the foundations of marketing, right? So if you can really understand some of these principles about how a customer thinks when they have a problem, where do they go to find a solution, and like, how does that consumer journey work? Then no matter what happens on the internet, no matter how AI takes over the world, or Instagram goes down and disappears, or Facebook ads don't work as they used to, if we know how to think like a marketer and how to really get inside of the brain of our dream customers when they need our solutions, we can kick butt for the rest of time, right? So even as platforms evolve, we still understand the core of what marketing is and how it's meant to serve our clients. Okay, so just so I know, because I have not met all of you necessarily or chatted with each of you, how confident are you when it comes to SEO for each of your respective businesses or roles? So if you could just pop 0 as in like, I know nothing, I don't know that it's working for us. 10 being, I am an SEO expert, I don't even need to be here, in which case you can go have a coffee. Where are you at? And try not to use the number 7. I don't know if you guys have heard that from Tim Ferriss, but 7 tends to be the default when we're like, yeah, I'm kind of good, but I'm not that good. Then you have to go to a 6 or an 8. 6 meaning room for improvement. 8 meaning I think I am actually quite skilled at this. Okay, cool. So Sean, you're going to be my my person if there's questions that I can't answer, because I definitely have been studying this for many years and practicing with many, many clients, but also I sometimes surrender my hands and say, I don't know why that shift happens, or I didn't read the 400-page update from Google to understand exactly what shifted in all of these data points that they're gathering from our websites. Okay, so we've got Aroma 2, Richard 6, Lucrezia 7, Chandeep 1, Adrian 8. Awesome. Sean says, you're not a technical. Okay, fine. I won't call on you then. Okay, so we've got a variety pack of people here. That's kind of what I assumed. So I'll try to teach to all levels and make sure you all get something wonderful out of this. So let's get into part one. We're going to cover 5 different parts today. So intro to SEO. We'll keep this simple. I'm just going to show you a diagram. Your website without SEO is basically just like this tiny little dot. Perhaps you hired someone to build your website for you, and this is what they did. They created a homepage, they created an about page, they created a services page, and they created a contact page. And then they didn't do anything else on the back end. They didn't even ask you what your customers would be typing in. And then they handed you your website. It's been active for 10 years. And you're like, I wonder why I never get any leads from Google. So it's like this very basic site, not a bad thing. Like, I'm still happy you have a website, but it's almost got this like tiny little blueprint on the internet. When we add in SEO and we start to build out way more pages, we start to look at your website architecture, we start to build a stronger foundation, you actually increase the blueprint that you have on the internet, okay? There's more content on your site, people spend more time on it, you have tools for your industry, you have trainings, you have blogs, you have case studies, you have drop-down menus, you have all of your links out to all of the different speaking and workshops that you've hosted. And then we go from having like this kind of makeshift shack, which is just your home, about, contact, whatever, to having a well built out home with a very solid structure, big blueprint on the internet. So we really want that. We want to build out a beautiful home, whatever that might look like, and have amazing site structure. You've got, your bathrooms, and you've got your bedrooms, and you've got all these different play places and whatever. A solid site structure will actually help you to have a better SEO presence on the internet. So just to give you an analogy there. But to break that down into more tangible points about why we should focus on SEO. So if you don't have a presence on Google, you're actually missing out on a lot of potential search intent. So just by yes or no in the chat, so get your chat up. Do you ever use a search engine to find a solution to your problem? Whether you're looking for coffee beans, whether you're looking for best gifts for a 1-year-old, whether you're looking for project management tools. I'm trying to think about one of the last Google searches I would have made. Actually, the last Google search I made was a branded search. I was looking for Firebat coffee roasters. If they didn't have a website, I had tried their beans before and I wanted to reorder them. If they didn't have a website, they'd be missing out on my repurchase. And now I'm probably going to spend thousands of dollars with them over the next couple of years. Okay, Lindsay says, yes, but now I use AI more. This is changing the conversation. You're right. Yes, and now ChatGPT. Yes, yes. Okay, cool. So we have quite a few people who are already using search engines, AI to find solutions. And remember, ChatGPT is pulling from what already exists on the internet. So this is still very valuable to build out your website. Of course, if you don't have an online presence, you're also not converting as much referral and or word of mouth traffic, right? Because if I'm out at a business networking dinner and I'm sitting at a table and someone's like, okay, what is the best project management software? And we're all like, oh, it's Asana. Oh, it's ClickUp. Oh, it's Monday.com. Whatever somebody says, and they're like, you got to use Monday.com. It's so good because X, Y, and Z. What am I going to do? I'm probably going to pull out my phone. And if I've never heard of it before, like as soon as I'm walking to the bathroom, I'll be like, Monday.com. What is that? So of course, then I land on the site, and what's the next step? They probably want me to start my 7-day free trial. So all of a sudden that becomes a very important piece of the journey, is being searchable. And we know that between 70 and 93% of all online experiences start with a search engine or start with AI. So using ChatGPT or Jasper or Claude. So we really want to make sure that your website is being pulled up in those situations. So that's a little bit about why we might want to focus on SEO. Let's get into part 2, which is understanding the customer journey and learning how the search engine results page works. So SERP, search engine results page, and I'll explain that shortly. Okay, so let's do a quick dig around. So I actually want to, let me show you the next slide actually. So we're going to play detective. So if everyone wants to pull up a fresh browser, I want you to start a Google search as if you're your dream customer. So go ahead and type into Google what you think they're going to be punching in. So think about maybe 2 or 3 keywords or a key phrase that describes the problem that they're coming to Google with. So they're like laying in bed in the middle of the night, they're plagued with this unwanted problem. And we turn to Google as our BFF when we have no friends around us. Sometimes we're like, there's got to be a solution. So remember that people are using very basic language, 2 to 3 words. They're probably typing it in super quickly while they're in line at Starbucks or laying in bed. So it's not going to be like perfectly crafted as a question. But I want you to actually type that in to Google right now. And I'll show an example of this right after. Okay, now that you've landed on this page, so hit search. Now I just want you to browse. What are the sponsored posts? Who's running ads right now? That'll be noted with sponsored. You'll also see AI overviews. Most of you will see that too. That's new. And then I want you to just scroll down. Let's look at the organic search results. So who's the number 1? Who's the number 2? Who's the number 3? So maybe just look at who your competitors are on these keywords. These people are obviously doing SEO really well, so we can run some audits on their website. And then if you keep scrolling, you're going to see people also ask. And at the very bottom, you'll see people also search for. These are really great ways to see slight modifications to the main keywords, the main key phrases. People go to Google with questions a lot. So maybe you typed in Toronto personal trainer, and people also ask, who's the best Toronto personal trainer? So it's like, oh, okay, people are looking for the best. Or personal trainer downtown Toronto. You're like, oh yeah, I work downtown. I should probably add that in. So just get a little bit of a snapshot of what's going on there. And then I also want you to look at how they've structured their SEO titles. So that would be like the big blue font in each search result, and their descriptions, which is those like 1 to 2 sentences that show up under that. So in case you would like to see an example, let me get out of here. Okay, awesome. So let me go over here. So if I were to type in Toronto personal trainer, so you're going to see everyone with a location first. You're going to scroll down. You're going to kind of see who your main competitors are, if anyone's running ads. You're going to see all the organic listings here. So this would be the SEO title, and this would be the SEO description. So just kind of seeing who's popping up. You're going to see people also search for. Let's type in project management software. Same thing. We see a sponsored post here. So they're going with project management software, all-in-one tool. Notion is also sponsoring here. Notion for SMBs, next gen project management. Okay, Asana. People also ask, what is the most commonly used? Okay, so people want to know that, so jot that down. So right now we're just playing detective. Is Microsoft project management free? Okay, that's a good piece of content, perhaps. Okay, people love the best. People want to know the best of everything, right? Best project management software for 2024. Oh, I guess people want these on an annual basis. That would be an insight there. Again, we're just looking at, is there anything that we can take away as a marketer that's like, oh, now I understand human psychology a little bit more. People want the 25 best, okay, in Canada, so they want location-specific options, etc. And then you'll see, yeah, people also ask. So all we're doing is playing detective here. go back to my slides. And then the final piece of that, if you would like, so in gathering some data, number 6 here is if you want to actually click through one of those search engine results. So maybe you click the one for Asana or ClickUp, and you're like, okay, so I've typed in the keywords, I've browsed what people are generally, or what's showing up on page 1. I want you to actually click through to the website of one of these results and then see what's on the site. When you go to the home page before the fold, so before you start scrolling, what's there? There should be a pretty good headline or a hook. And what's the call to action? How's the website structured? So just kind of make note there, because showing up on page 1 of Google is great, but if people go to your site and then bounce right off, you'll have a high bounce rate, you're not going to continue to climb the ranks, because Google will say, oh no, that was a mismatch. We gave that person the wrong site because they went to it, wasn't what they were looking for, they bounced back. So what we want to do is make sure that your search engine result matches up with the promise on your website and gets the person to book the demo, read the case study, opt into your email list. So like this all has to work synergistically here. We can't just keyword stalk our website and then send them to a completely irrelevant page, right? So maybe everybody in your industry is sending users to book a demo, and all of yours are send us an email. And perhaps that's not what people want. They don't want to send you an email. They want to go straight to a demo. So you can gather some results or just some data there. All right. So let's get into the meat and potatoes, starting to build out a keyword strategy. So now you've heard me use these words like keyword, key phrase. So you're starting to understand, okay, so my customers are spending time online. Check. A lot of them are going to Google or to ChatGPT to find a solution. And I think I know what they type in. Check. Now, how do I make sure I get onto page 1? Because page 1 is kind of where it's at. It's like where all the cool kids hang out. And when you're on page 2, it's like, you know, you're not as cool. We want you to be page 1 because that's where a lot of the action happens. And, you know, there's varying data. People always ask me, well, is it better to pay for sponsored posts or to try and get the #1 organic listing? There's a lot to be said around being the #1 organic listing, because when you talk to a lot of people and read through a lot of survey results, a lot of people, they feel a little bit weary about the sponsored posts. And in seeing consumer behavior online, they scroll right by it and start looking at the top, second, or third organic result. So, of course, testing both for your product or service is great. But there is something to be said for being that organic listing. Okay. So first, I want you to write out some of your long tail versus short tail keywords. This is just like it sounds. So a short tail keyword would be 2 to 3 words, 1 or 2 or 3 words, and it would be something generic like dog food or acne or nutrition. Now, these are things that it's like almost caveman talk. So it doesn't necessarily communicate the intent of the searcher. So we don't know, are they looking for DIY dog food recipes? Are they looking to buy dog food in Toronto? Are they looking for homemade acne solutions? Are they looking for acne medication? Are they looking for how to cure acne naturally? But again, a short tail keyword is just something really simple. So I want you to write out 2 columns on your paper right now and just start to brain dump. What are some of those short tail keywords? Those really basic words. These would not necessarily be in question form or preposition form, but they're like the words that if someone said, like, describe your business in 1 or 2 words, this is what they'd be saying. So these would have high search volume. So a lot of people would come to Google and type in dog food, but it's also a highly competitive word and it doesn't necessarily communicate intent. So we want to start by writing out these words just to really understand, like, what are those main words that we need to have all over our site, which are going to then inform our content strategy and our SEO strategy. So first, I want you to dump out a few of those. And then we're going to actually think about long tail keywords. So what are those? These are more specific. They're more descriptive. Like I said, DIY dog food recipe. Okay, that communicates a bit more intent. We know what that person's looking for. Or instead of vacations, it would be cheap beach vacations in 2025. Or instead of golf shoes, it would be buy new set of golf shoes. These would have a lower search volume, less competition, but they show a lot of intent. We know what that person wants and that they're motivated to buy. Just to throw this on a graph for you, if you're more of a visual learner, you might see, or you might associate then these longer tail keywords. So nutrition coach for women over 40, weight loss tips for busy moms. These are longer tail keywords and they're going to have a higher conversion rate, but less search volume. And again, the opposite for a shorter tail keyword, high search volume. So nutrition coach, diet tips, weight loss. Wouldn't necessarily want to compete on that, but I do want to make sure that I'm building out my long tail keywords and my content strategy based on the short tail keywords. I wanted to make sure you kind of understood that first. So how do we turn all of this into any form of a strategy? It's like, okay, well, now I have all these words and phrases that I want to rank for, but what do I actually do with my website to make this happen? And I know you're here to get results, so let's shift into that. So I know that in session 1, or one of your first sessions, I think it was Brent, he talked about a marketing funnel, right? This is something that you can always take the lens of a marketing funnel to any strategy that you're building out. So if you're doing ads, there's a marketing funnel there. You run the ad, you need to nurture the person who saw that ad, get them on your email list, get them engaging, and then make them an offer. If you are doing SEO, we can also look at this lens of a funnel. So there's top of funnel keywords. These are the more generic. So that would be something like personal trainer or weight loss. Middle of funnel, this would be someone who's like more leaning in, ready to make a decision. These are the keywords I like. These are like the longer tail keywords. This would be hire a personal trainer in Toronto, best personal trainer in Toronto, female personal trainer downtown Toronto. That's a middle of funnel keyword. That shows that somebody is already more invested and ready to convert at the bottom of the funnel. The best possible option would be them actually typing in your business name if they already knew who you were. More of those bottom of funnel, they're branded keywords. But for the purpose of today's session, I really want you to lean into those middle of funnel keywords. So what are those phrases, questions, etc., that we want to start populating on our website so that our product or service is shown on page 1 for a higher intent keyword? So some tools that you might want to use. Oh, and there's just a recap there. So if you don't have a Google Keyword Planner account, you may want to activate one. Now it's going to ask you to put in your credit card. It's, not ideal, but you can put it in and then obviously cancel and pause the ad right away. But to use their backend, which is really wonderful, you can discover new keywords there. So you could go to Google Keyword Planner and type in best organic coffee, if that's what you're selling. And it's going to show you all the different iterations on that keyword, what the search volume is, what the search difficulty is, and you can just start populating different ideas for keywords. Now, I want to give you a template. So I'll pop this in the chat. This is just a really, really simple template that you can hit file and make a copy. All it is just starting to brain dump keywords and key phrases. And I just share what that is. Whether it's a tofu, mofu, or a bofu. Okay, so tofu would be like the word coaching. That's very generic, not going to try and rank for it. Bofu would be my name. If somebody's searching my name, I want to rank for that, right? But it's likely that my website is already there. But if you're not ranking for your own business name, if a competitor is like outbidding you and out organically ranking you, that's a problem. We want to work on that. And then MOFU keywords. So small business coach Toronto, marketing coach Canada. These are words that like middle of funnel, I want to be showing up. Page 1, search result 1 for these. When you use that Google Keyword Planner, you can actually see the average monthly search volume. So it's like, okay, if there are 0 to 10 people searching for something per month, is it the best spend of my time right now to try and get that keyword? Maybe not. Maybe we want to go to something that has 10 to 100 searches per month in terms of volume. 100 to 1,000. So you can start to get an idea. Are people actually searching for this? And then what we're going to do is actually type each of those keywords in. So like business coach Toronto, small business coach, you type it into Google. And I want you to use your detective hat, just like we just did, to see, is there a long tail keyword associated with this? So for example, project management software, we come here and we're like, oh, maybe the long tail keyword is, what is the top project management software, or the best or most commonly used project management software? So I might just take that, and if I was trying to rank for that, I might add that to my long tail keyword, project management software. Maybe I know it gets 100 to 1,000. This could be a really good long tail keyword that I want to add in, just to build it out a little bit. I know that gets searched and that's already ranking. And then what we're going to do is move into, how does that turn into a piece of content for you? Maybe you start a blog on this. So I'll come back to that in a sec. So Google Keyword Planner is wonderful as a tool. If you don't have it, go ahead and activate it. So I gave you access to that sheet. These are just a list of, like, if you're building out a long tail keyword, you can even just take a screenshot of this right now. These are very popular modifications on a short tail keyword that I'll use with clients. So if it's project management software, it might be project management software case studies, or what are the best project management software, or project management software tutorials, or how to implement a project management software. These are great ways to modify the keyword. So as one action item on today's session, if you have a blog and if you're very motivated to build out your search engine optimization strategy, I want you to use that template that I just shared from Google Sheets and actually build out some version of a strategy around keywords and key phrases. So once you've decided what are those keywords, what are some of the long tail options, I really want you to think about, how can I create content, kind of make my website more of that built out structure that has more architecture, we'll call it. So it's not just a home page and about page, but maybe you have like your marketing blog and your tech skills blog, and you have your graphic design blog. Like maybe there's all these different pieces of your site. We can actually start to build out your site architecture. So what we're going to do is fill in that long tail keyword option. And then we're actually going to pop that long tail keyword into Google. So again, we're using Google as our friend. And we're going to see what the top pages are talking about. So if we decided that what is the most commonly used project management software was a long tail keyword that we're going to look to rank for, we might type that back into Google. And we'll start to see, okay, so 15 best project management softwares picked for 2025. What are the most used software applications? Top 21. So we see that the listicles work well. 2024 guides. So you might decide that in terms of content ideas, we've got number 1, maybe first piece of content I want to do is best project management softwares for 2025. Something that we didn't see there, but might be relevant. If you work for monday.com, it might be monday.com versus ClickUp, which is best. Full case study or something like that. So we're just going to dump in some content ideas here. And then you might decide if you have a content team, we're going to push this live December 7th, 2024. So just a publish date. You can start to build out some version of a strategy here. Okay, so that is what the blog strategy would look like to build out your site architecture. If we've come to this point in the session and you're still kind of wondering, okay, I still don't know exactly how to build out my content because I'm not sure what my keywords and key phrases should be, use a SEO software like SEMrush or Ubersuggest to run an audit on some of your top competitors, okay? You can obviously just play around on Google, but you can also run an audit, throw the website of one of your competitors into one of these softwares, and a lot of them you can get free trials on. Maybe you already have a subscription, and see what are your competitors' top keywords that they're ranking for. You can also do this through Google Keywords Planner. So it's not that you're going to go copycat their strategy, but if you have no idea what you should possibly be ranking for, I would take your top 2 to 3 competitors, run a quick audit on their website, and check out what are the keywords that are bringing them the most organic traffic. What keywords are they bidding on and running paid advertisements against? So again, you could just pop in on Google Keywords Planner, a website. So I just punched in Love and Lemons here. It's a food blog. And we see that one of their top keywords is recipe healthy snacks. So maybe you're like, oh, that's something that I need to go for. Healthy snack recipes, healthy snacks for adults. And you can actually sort the average monthly searches and the search difficulty. So just as a addition to what we've already talked about, if you're still a little unsure about your keywords. Okay, for the next 10 minutes, I want to chat about some main elements of technical SEO. Just in case your website was built and you never actually saw whether some of these items were populated in launching your site, or in case you are starting to actually create content, but you're like, how do I make sure that this content doesn't go to waste? How do I optimize it from the time I hit publish? So let's talk about technical SEO. Yeah, and Sean says Ahrefs Keyword Planner is a great free Chrome extension. Amazing. Yeah, thanks, Sean, for that. I think keywordtool.io might have a free trial as well. Yeah, the Chrome extensions. And there are some really wonderful Chrome extensions for actually running an audit on your website right now to see where you're at. I think SEO Meta One Click is a good one, if you can add that to Chrome. All right, so I'm going to show a list of some of the main items that I teach on for technical SEO. There are a few more as well, but I think these ones are important for you to know. And what I would recommend is actually watching this training back at some point, just the next 10 minutes, and just making sure that you have each of these or understand each of them. Because I'm going to be flying through them, and I just want to make sure you kind of take away one action item so that you can come back to me and say, okay, Kelsey, all 10 of these we have implemented on our site. So the first one is making sure your site title and your site description is populated. So go into the back end of your website, hit settings, hit SEO. You wouldn't believe the amount of websites that are just blank. They don't have anything populating. And so Google is actually choosing what to showcase in the results page for your SEO titles and SEO descriptions. So this was a former client of mine. What we did was we rewrote all of her titles and descriptions. She's a Wim Hof instructor, and that's a highly searched term. She runs cold plunges and ice baths, and she's location specific, right? So she wants to capitalize on that Toronto-based market. and she has a first and last name. So we wanted to include that in case people are doing branded searches. So when you're writing a site title and site description, best practice, make sure it includes the keywords that you want to rank for. Make sure it also includes your company name or your business name, so you're showing up for branded searches, and make sure it's readable, right? If it's just like benefits, ice bath, sauna, cold plunge, like that's not necessarily the best format. You want to make sure that it is kind of a tagline. So something like experience the benefits of the Wim Hof method. So keyword stalking, never the best way to go about ranking, but obviously we want to see those keywords in there. And then the meta description, that's those first two sentences that you're going to see. I would go check on what are yours showing up as right now and make sure that it is like a succinct overview, a snippet of the most important things that you offer with like a little bit of a call to action under it to encourage people to click through and go land on your site. Okay. So you'll definitely want to add a site title and a site description. That's a maximum of about 250 characters. The next element of technical SEO is making sure you have some H1 tags populated on each page, just one on each page. So your H1 is the title of your page as it appears on the screen. So kind of want to make sure you introduce the topic of the page. So this would be in this first photo, new study finds Mediterranean diet may lower breast cancer risk. That's their H1 tag on this blog. Or on the Be Chewy site, the best natural dog foods of 2022, according to veterinarians. So H1 is actually going to show up as the big text on your website, on each page, on each blog, on each subpage. And so you want it to be keyword heavy, but also readable, right? So it has a big impact on SEO. So really choose this wisely. So when somebody just has like a very generic headline on their homepage and it just says insights on the latest data, I'm like, oh no, that's a missed opportunity. Like, what kind of insights are you talking about here? The latest data, what is that? I know that once somebody lands on your site, they probably know what insights and latest data they're there for. But if you need to include more keywords like you're an investor relations insights conglomerate, make sure that's in the H1 tag. That's really important text there. So the best way to do this would probably be to use a Chrome extension tool where if you click it, I think the SEO Meta one-click tool, if you click it on your website on any page, it'll tell you how many H1 tags you have. You want to see one, probably the top line of the website. So definitely check each page and make sure your H1 tag, the big text at the top for the most part, is relevant with your keywords, okay? The third element of technical SEO is to make sure that the first 100 words are keyword heavy, key phrase heavy, and that they're intriguing enough that people don't bounce off the site. Right? So what we're trying to do here, thinking from a higher level, is make sure that when a user searches for a solution, when they land on our site, we want to deliver. We want to make sure that the piece of content or the page that they're on is meeting the needs of the customer. So once they read that H1 tag, they'll be reassured, okay, I'm in the right place. What we want them to do from there is scroll and click around our website, spend time, engage with the content. And a lot of that will happen when they read the first 100 words. So make sure that your intro to your piece of content is meeting the need of the search intent. So just making sure to start with a strong paragraph here. Now, something that you might have heard of before is the acronym EEAT. So experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. This is something that floats around the SEO Google universe as important elements of a piece of content. So do you communicate expertise? Like, is it clear that you're an expert in this category? Do you communicate experience in this industry? Authoritativeness, trustworthiness. So do you have your own data, your own case studies, storytelling, right? You can pump out AI content to help you with SEO, but it's informative and general. It's not insightful and personal. We want the insightful and personal content, which sits in a league of its own when you add your own personal anecdotes, data, what you're seeing in the field. The fourth item I want to share is having internal and external links. So you can see here that inside of this piece of content, it links out to other blogs on their site. It also links out to different experts who have also shared on this topic. So you almost want to create this ecosystem where when somebody lands on your site, they can keep clicking around to the next article and, oh, I want to learn more about postmenopausal women or breast cancer, so they can click through to other blog posts. You want to have descriptive URLs. So you can actually change these URLs, make sure that they communicate the clear point, usually the same as the H1 tag. So make sure you change your URL so it's not just a conglomerate of numbers, letters, etc. So we can update that. So make sure that it's descriptive of what the person is finding. Readability. This is a big one, but essentially what you want to make sure here is that whatever you're posting is at a reading level that meets the user's intent, right? So usually we want to keep it to like a grade 6 level. And why I'm showing you this little snippet here is like having bullet points, having shorter paragraphs. It's going to keep people on your site longer versus dumping a bunch of text together. So if you have 90,000 words, but all together, no white space, no chunking it out, no bold, no links to break up the colors, it's going to feel too overwhelming for the person who lands on your site. So make sure that there is a readability component. And Google has actually come out and said it prefers content with bullets, numbers that's spaced out. So we're going to take that and run with it. Technical SEO piece number 7, every image you put on your website, you want to populate alternative text. If you've never done that, just go right back onto your site and double click on each image and make sure that you populate the alternative text. This is really helpful because Google will actually crawl the images and it sends relevancy signals to Google that like, oh yeah, they're talking about women having meals, which is exactly what you're talking about in this article. So make sure you're optimizing your images for search as well, which is something people don't often think about. Page speed. So does your page load quickly? You can go to pagespeed.web.dev to run a quick audit of your SEO performance right now. You can see how things are loading. So is it fast enough? It'll give you a score out of 100 on like 4 different elements. So copy down that website, go ahead and run your site through it. pagespeed.web.dev. Is your page mobile friendly? So this is a good one. You can actually use, what is the software? I think it's Google Lighthouse is what you can Google. And it'll take you to, I think it's search.google.com/test/mobile friendly. I can send all these links out after. And you can actually see, is your page mobile friendly? Because Google uses mobile first indexing. So they want to see that you have a healthy mobile version of your site. Again, you're going to want to rewatch this and come through the checklist one by one. And finally, backlinks. So I know there's a lot of chatter about, are backlinks still relevant? Of course they are if they're good backlinks, right? So if you have, if you're a health blog, you want health experts who have really strong online presences linking back to your site. Gives you so much credibility. If you're appearing on podcasts, if you're contributing to articles, if you just got interviewed for the Globe and Mail, having them backlink to your site gives a nice healthy boost. It shows that you're credible. Don't buy backlinks. You know, they can be a little bit sketchy. Be wary of anyone who pitches you backlinks. But again, if you can just be more relevant, add value to the internet, your site will rank better when it comes to SEO. And look for this is your easy opportunity of the day. Look for unlinked mentions, okay? So just Google your product, or your business name, see if it's showing up on any websites. And if it's not linked, ask that website or ask that person to just hyperlink to your site. So they're already talking about you, they might as well backlink to you. You can even set up Google Alerts so you know anytime somebody's talking about your offer or your product. All right, I know we are coming up on some time constraints. I've got 3 minutes, so that's good. So really, when we're putting this all together, I just want to make sure that you've thought about some architecture to your website beyond the basic falling down shack, right? So picture that home, about, contact. We can do better, right? So what are those different categories that you talk about, and how can you have individual pages under those categories? So a blog like HubSpot, of course, they are dominating in so many marketing and business content pieces, but for good reason. They have literally answered every question. They've taken every keyword and turned it into a key phrase and turned it into 35 blog posts that are modified every single year, which is pretty cool. So they have these categories of marketing, service, sales, website. Under each of those, they have their individual content. So they've built out a really strong site architecture, right? And they've pretty much taken over every single topic or concept as it relates to marketing, sales, website, service. Shopify, go to their website and see how they do it. Under solutions, they've got these huge categories of start, sell, market, manage, and then under that, they answer every single question. So go ahead and see how their site architecture is set up. This is aspirational. You're not going to get there tomorrow. They've been doing this for decades, you guys. So don't rush the process, but really start to think about your website in a different way. And finally, how can you measure and manage all of this? Google Analytics. So you can go to Google Analytics and set up your account. You'll start to get some data. You can use your Squarespace or your Shopify site. There's data right built into your website, or WordPress, WP Analytics. You can use your Google Search Console, which is amazing. So that'll tell you how you're doing. And if you have a Google My Business account, because you're a brick and mortar, I don't know how many of you are, you can click on Performance. And that's it. So that was a lot. I don't know how much time we have for questions, but my hope is that you have a general understanding of how search engine optimization works, why it's important, and that you ask yourself, what are 3 things that I can do off of this session today to increase my digital presence on the internet? Maybe it's doing your site title and description. Maybe it's literally just starting to play detective more. Why are my competitors ranking so well? You can just go look at their website. You'll figure out so much. And how can you add unique value to the internet? Because in a day where, honestly, AI is the bare minimum, it's people who tell stories, who have client anecdotes, who have expertise and authority that are ranking better. So AI generated stuff, fine, but you have to add your own insight to that and be unique in order to rank. So that's it. I hope this was interesting. Happy to chat further. But yeah, I'll pass it back to Jenna.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Kelsey. There's, as you said, so many things to consider and to work with here. We are kind of at the time, so maybe we'll take just a few-minute break and we'll join back up and head out into our sessions. And then if there's any questions, we can kind of regroup afterwards, and we can share those with Kelsey at a later stage. So let's take just 3 minutes and join back up as our facilitators are slowly joining the session.